Good morning to this press conference of the S&D Group. I hand over to our Group President, Udo Bullmann.
Good morning and welcome to our press conference, everybody. There is a surprise today. It's another Brexit week. We have a discussion what is going on in the decision-making process in Westminster. You have seen already the indication of the sequence of several votes this week. Last night we had the visit of Theresa May and what Commission's President Juncker called a last attempt to give clarifications, legal clarifications from the European side. For me, that proves again and again and again that the European Union is working in good faith. All of us who have a reasonable mindset still regard the Brexit idea as a major tragedy, of course, but we were never aiming for a catastrophe to come. We were never aiming for any kind of punishment. We were always negotiating in good faith and trying to minimize the impact, the negative impact of the Brexit decision as good as possible. This is the last attempt of the European Union of doing so, because behind that there is not any space anymore for further movements, as the European side indicated. Now we have the situation in the House of Commons, and the House of Commons tonight has to make up its opinion whether they agree or whether they not agree. What did change by the clarifications on last night? Of course, the basic agreement of Michel Barnier cannot be opened, so there is no change to the basic agreement. There is only certification that the EU is continuously working in good faith, and there is also a clarification for the UK side that against all odds, if something else would happen, if the European Union would not work alongside the spirit of collaboration, then there would be an exit point for them. But this was clear anyhow. But it's put now in more concrete letters so that everybody who would like to understand, I think again it's a question of mindset, who would like to understand is able to read it and can understand. It's up to the UK parliamentarians now to draw their conclusions. It's up to them to find a united position, yes or no. And if Theresa May is again defeated tonight, then I think she should come to the conclusion that she perhaps should rather work more closely with the opposition, that she perhaps should rethink options which were put on the table by Jeremy Corbyn, for instance, of a closer and prudent relationship with the European Union. And also, if everything is blocked at the very end, yes, take back, I repeat myself, in similar exercises like today, take back control in a blocked parliament would mean to ask the people, to give the people the right to decide again. This is our take on the Brexit issues, but we have more exciting elements to report on. We have the climate change debate and the resolution, which is followed and pursued with strong ambitions from our group. We are, I can say that proudly, we are the only, this is a standalone point for the Socialists and Democrats, we are the only group that is after the transformation, the ecological transformation of our industrial societies in a way that is socially inclusive. This is, if you would like to go back to our documents, the battle plan of our group, our reports on sustainable equality, our declared goal that we want to have a transformational change for everybody, not only for the happy few. ask Mr. Macron what it is about. He will know, meanwhile, what we are talking about. And here we are spearheading a holistic concept of improving our societies for the future. And for us, it's a pleasure also to have around 60 young people here from 20 member states, the young people who take the streets in demonstrations and manifestations so proudly and so courageously, and we are happy having been able to invite them to the European Parliament. And they will also tonight be in our group, and we will discuss together with them the way ahead, the way forward of a sustainable transformation which benefits especially their generation, of course. Third and last element I would present to you is, of course, the ping pong on the Macron proposals between Paris and now, yes, also Berlin. It's interesting to read the take of the new conservative leader, Kramp-Karrenbauer, whom many already see as the potential successor also of Merkel. I'm not too sure about that, but this is the public debate in Germany. Sometimes, and you, in her answer from Sunday in one of the leading Sunday newspapers in Germany, you can read also a typical shortcoming of the German conservatives. This is the same old soup. This is nothing new. This is not ambitious. When you say, yes, Europe is for protecting its borders, Europe is for the economy, but Europe is not for social coherence, Europe is not for equality, Europe is not for the best perspectives of the next generation, then you miss your point. You didn't take any lessons from the financial crisis 10 years ago. You have not learned your lesson, what the future is about, and you only give proof that you are on an outdated, misleading concept which is not competitive for Europe and not competitive for Germany. So we took it with interest, but our response is our political program for the future, a just and fair future for everybody in the European Union. This is also what we are reporting permanently, what we are discussing with stakeholders wherever we go, when we go to Lisbon, when we go to Madrid, when we go this week to Leipzig, when we went to Milano or to Athens. This is what we talk to citizens. This is what we put to the discussion table with the young people, with stakeholders, trade unionists, employers, employees, all kinds of, and we get very, very positive responses to our political priorities, and we very much hope that we can continue with this work successfully in the next mandate. I would like to make one thing sure. Finally, last point, the decision what direction Europe takes is to be made in this House, in the European Parliament. And from day one on, this House will lead, and we will lead the discussion. And any constellation of the political power game, any constellation of policy making will be guided by us, by the Socialists and Democrats, alongside our political program. That is for sure. Also applies to Mr. Macron. It's nice to read his headlines, but the answers will be given here in the House. Thanks so much for your attention. And now, of course, I'm open for questions and comments.
Thank you, Udo Buhlmann. Are there any questions from your side? Yes, please. Indicate your name and medium, please.
Good morning. I'm Salvatore Lusso from ANSA News Agency, Italy. I would like to ask you a question about the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, which I think is going to be discussed today also in the Parliament. And my question is this. Italy in the coming days is going to sign a memorandum of understanding with China. And I would like to know if you share the worries that such a move could be kind of dangerous for the unity of Europe in its relationship with China? Thank you very much.
Well, China is a powerful nation, especially economically. And of course, the European Union as such, as well as its member states, are trading partners for China. That's more or less natural and can be worked out to the benefit of both sides. But, and then the but, you expect perhaps a but. Now the but is coming into the sentence. It depends on the interpretation, how we perform this collaboration. My take is always to say the European Union and its member states have to be bold. Bold in designing their own future, bold also in their political and economic independence, bold in making profit of their assets. So you found me in the past as one of those who criticized the lack of investment of the European Union in the Mediterranean area. I applied this criticism, for instance, to Greece. In the critical years, I was not too keen seeing the Schäuble guys arguing against additional investment, arguing in favor of purely austerity measures, whereas the Chinese stood ready to buy parts of the Piraeus harbor. Yeah? So why is it that we leave it up to the Chinese to take strategic initiatives to reconnect our old trade paths, our old trade allies between Asia and Europe? How is it justifiable that we leave it up to the Chinese to invest in Africa, to invest in the Mediterranean? So my principal criticism is that the European Union itself has to come forward with a major investment plan for the South as well as for the East. And this is part of our political program, as you know.
Are there other questions? Yes, please.
Thank you. I am Katalin Halmai, Hungarian newspaper Népszava. In these days, we have many news, rumors, speculations about the troubled relationship between Fidesz and EPP. We do not know the outcome yet, of course, but some experts claim that if Fidesz remained in the EPP, progressive groups, among them socials and democrats, would reject any cooperation with the EPP in the next European Parliament, even prevent Mr. Weber from becoming the next Commission President. Could you confirm this? Thank you.
Well, the basic problem behind that, unfortunately, is a deeper problem than only the question who is at the decision day voting for whom. If you go back to the founding years of Europe, you could see two strong partners. Of course, today we have a much more rich and broader picture of political forces, but at the very instance we had after the Second World War, we had a strong social democratic party and we had the Conservative Party. Conservative Party, Christian Democrats being very much in favor of Europe's unification, also be very much in favor of common values. What I regret in these years, in the last years, is the urbanization of the European People's Party. This is not only Hungary. Hungary is the worst point here, as we know. But if you look at Austria, if you look at the policy of Mr. Kurz and the way in which we conducted the presidency, sending troops and helicopters to the borders to Slovenia, come on, turning its back to the Antonio Guterres United Nations migration plan, come on. It's not only Hungary, it's the influence of Orban on the PPE that worries me the most. So the question mark is permanently, how far is this traditionally pro-European bloc of the PPE still a reliable partner? This is the basic question. And this can only be answered by the PPE itself. And here we are looking and we are watching what they are doing. And then all the other questions will answer itself afterwards.
Yes, Anna.
Anna Wandensky from Europe Diplomatic. I have a question on gender equality because well, now it's better. I have a question on gender equality because elections are approaching, and still in the history of European institutions, there was never a woman in a position of the head of the Commission. There were only 2 women leading the Parliament as speakers. So my question to you is why there can't be a mechanism of rotation to share equally the high positions and also represent women who are half of European population, but moreover, they are also flying to space, they are winners of Nobel Prizes, but still in 21st century, institutions don't recognize this equality de facto.
Well, I have to say we are doing what we can. The German socialists, for instance, have a 50% list, and that is already tradition in Germany, in the SPD, to present as many women as men. I'm trying to promote good candidates, female candidates for commissioners wherever. And this is not only us here in the European Parliament. If you look at Spain, then you can see a government of Pedro Sanchez leading on this issue, because I cannot remember any state having that many highly qualified women in the cabinet, where I say, if I talk to them, if I have conversations, we visited Madrid, as you know, and we had conversations with many of the ministers, they are a shining light, not only of the Spanish cabinet, they would be everywhere, all over Europe. So this is giving good examples. We are very much full of hope that this is going to continue in the next term of the college. You saw that in the beginning of the last mandate, Jean-Claude Juncker encouraged the member states to come forward with 2 proposals, a gender balanced proposal of a man and of a woman and of a man. And finally, it looked for me to be the case that those countries who did propose a woman did not come out with a bad deal of portfolios. So this is the dynamics, but we stand ready to promote this dynamics wherever we can.
Yes, one more question there, please.
Monsieur El-Mali,
journalist from Turkish TV. This afternoon, the report on Turkey will be discussed. What will your group's message be? There are a number of requests calling for an initiative to highlight what is in the report. Does your group have a view on how to implement the demands or requests set out in this report? Thank you.
Well, you know that our specialist, Kati Piri, who leads us here on this report, is well known in the debate, and she is very well knowledgeable of all the backgrounds going on in this relationship between Turkey and the European Union. I think this is by far the toughest report we had so far on the situation in Turkey. A report that defends civic rights, a report that is very demanding on the necessary changes in Turkey itself, by the government, and is also, and this is perhaps also a good methodological point, conditioning any improvements of, for instance, trade relations, conditioning on improvements of civic rights in Turkey. I think this is a useful way to deal with the situation which we do not like neither. We do not like neither, of course. We would very much appreciate a development where Turkey comes back to a stance which is closer to European freedoms, to European values, and to the European Union.
Are there further questions? Then thank you very much and have a good week.